Hi. It is Friday and it is roughly 5 a.m. and I just wanted to pop on and see what I have to say. Excuse the lighting. It's not quite light out and I used the window. All right, I'm going to breathe and then we'll get into it. I'm hearing something about wrestling. If that's significant to anyone. And something about treetops. Maybe comes to mind is the Rockabye Baby song. If that's significant for anyone too. Anyways, I think today I want to talk about how easy it is to fall down the ladder. Because if we think about it, falling down the ladder doesn't take any effort. You actually fall down the ladder by not putting effort in. And if you don't put in effort into your own life, who's going to? You have to do the work. Because if you don't do the work, you're going to sit at the bottom of your ladder. And the work is just facing yourself, is facing who you are. It is facing the emotions that rise in situations and then understanding why they rise. Understanding why you get upset when you get upset. Why you get angry when you get angry. And not just the surface level reason. You didn't just get angry because of what happened. Generally, you are triggered by something from your past. Generally, moments where you feel panic and anguish and irritation and frustration, it's because there's something from your past that is coming up. It's reminding you of how you felt in that past moment. So if you were in a moment as a child where you felt weak and powerless, like everything was out of your control and you couldn't do anything to change it, and then as an adult, you get into a situation where you feel powerless, and instead of being able to ask for help or being able to step back and process the moment, you have a meltdown. You cry or you start yelling or you get really frustrated. And that meltdown isn't because of the situation that's happening. The situation that's happening just triggered an old emotion towards chaos. It reminded you of that moment when you were a child and you felt powerless. and it reminded you of how stuck you felt. And anyone who feels stuck is going to fight to get out. It's our natural reaction to fight for our lives. And when your life feels threatened just by being powerless over your own life, you react. And a lot of times, those moments don't call for a reaction that big. A lot of times, a reaction is too much for what's happening, because it's not rising because of the moment. It's rising because of a past moment. And there are lots of things that trigger us. We can be triggered by chaos. We can be triggered by calm. If you grew up in chaos and you're not used to calm, calm can be threatening. We can even be triggered by our own children, especially by our own children, because they remind us of what it was like to be young and what it was like to have an authority ruling over you. And you must remember how that felt. Because when you remember how it felt, you can change it for your child. Maybe you don't want them to feel that authoritarian, my way or the highway parent attitude. So you change it. You decide consciously that you're not going to be that way. And then you put in the work to act accordingly. So you have to match your actions to your words. You can say that you're calmer. You can say that you handle things well. You can say that you're healed. But are you really? Staring at a bunch of forsythia across the road, if that's significant for anyone. And the color of it reminds me of happiness. Because it's a bright spot in all the bare trees. Out of all the naked trees, I see bright yellow flowers, I think. And it just reminds me that we need to look for the bright spot in our lives. In all the bad, what is your bright spot? In that chaotic moment, what is the bright spot? Maybe the bright spot is that you didn't react. And you can celebrate that. You can celebrate the fact that you reacted differently than you might have used to reacted. And that's finding your flowers in the bare, naked trees. You found meaning in the moment. And that's really all we need to do, is find meaning in our moments. Find the meaning behind them. Oh, excuse me. Because every moment has a meaning. Every moment has a reason behind it. And once you figure out what those reasons are, you start paying attention more. And you start seeing the reasons for a lot of things. You start seeing the reasons behind why you act the way you do. Then you start seeing the reason why others act the way they do. I think I'm going to breathe for a moment. Ladybugs could be important. And when I think of ladybugs, I think of how they get into your door frame. And it might start off with one or two. And then the next thing you know, you open the door and there's like 150 of them crawling on the door. And you don't know where they came from. And now they're a nuisance. So something that by itself is beautiful and reminds you of kindness and gentleness, something on its own that is a good thing, when multiplied, is not such a good thing. When there's overabundance of the good thing, it can become a bad thing. And that goes with anything. Everything in life, you don't want to overdo it either way. Because too much of a good thing can be bad too. And that can be things that you're consuming. Or it can simply just be that if you're trying to live a happy life and you're trying really hard to live a happy life, you're pushing it. You're pushing too hard. And when you push too hard, the happiness doesn't come naturally. And because you're forcing it, you're going to get the counter effect. Because you're forcing too hard. You want this life to flow. You want to move naturally within it. And as you move within it, you begin to understand how things work. As you understand how things work, you can begin to change them. And change is how you mend things. Things that need to be fixed, altered, looked at differently, can only be so through change. And change comes every day, in every moment. You are ever changing. This world is ever changing. Everything about it. Excuse me. Everything about it is ever changing. And we have to be able to swing with it. Because when we swing against it, that's when things get hard. When you try to fight against the natural flow of life, things get hard. Sometimes we have to accept the situations that we're in. for the moment. Sometimes there isn't a way out right now. And we won't see the way out until later. And sometimes it comes later because we have to understand the moment that we're in. And once you understand the moment, then you can change it. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass. Kind of just going with what comes. But change is a really important thing in this life. Because if you can't change, you can't flow with life. If you're not changing always, you're not flowing with life. If you are the same as you've been your whole life and you've never changed, that says you've never grown. You never grew into what you were supposed to be. And there are a lot of people who have never grown. I can think of a lot of people, especially in the older generation, that have never grown. I've met them personally. They are set in their ways. They're set in their opinions. They're set in their beliefs. And there is no changing that. And they will tell you that you are wrong if you challenge anything that they believe. And it is not good to be so rigid. Because if you're that rigid, you can't accept changes in life. And when you can't accept the changes that come because you simply don't want to see that they're changing, you take your own happiness away. Because change is inevitable. It's always going to happen. It always is happening. Everything's changing at all times. The planet is changing. You are changing. Your kids are changing. And we can see it easily in kids because they grow so quickly. They change quickly. Everything about them changes quickly. And at one point, everything about you changed quickly. But at some point, maybe you stopped flowing with life. You got stuck in your beliefs. You got stuck in your habits. You got stuck in the things that you do day to day. And when you're stuck, you go nowhere. You can't grow. And growth is what we need to do in this life. It is the only way to get through life, is to grow. And the people who grow are the people who thrive. The people who swing with the punches and allow their pain to teach them. Those are the people who make it in this life. You've just got to be flexible. Be more flexible with life. Be more flexible with your beliefs. Allow other points of view to pass through your mind. Because if you do, you might change your mind. And it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to become something you never thought you would be. And you shouldn't worry about changing. Just do it. It doesn't have to be hard. Just accept that you've changed. I have. In the past year, I have gone from someone who shunned God to someone who speaks about God through revelation and realization. Realization is what I meant to say, but I said revelation, so maybe revelations is important. Of course it is. I lost my train of thought. It's gone with the wind. Anyways, this life is ever changing, and you need to change with it. You need to grow with it. Because when we do, we are in harmony. And when we are in harmony with the growth of the planet and the growth of others, we have an easier path. Harmony is what brings you an easier path. Because when you're in harmony, you're in that balance. And life is a balance. You are the scale. And you must weigh your heart. And if you have a good heart and you keep light in your heart, you will find that change comes easily because it's natural. It is unnatural to stay the same. No one should stay the same. Because if you're staying the same, it means you haven't learned anything. Think about where you were just a few months ago. How much different are you? Are you a lot different? Have you made changes in your life to be in a different place or be a different person? Or have you stubbornly held on to everything and shunned change? Because if you've shunned change, you're kind of screwed. I'm not gonna lie. Because everything's always changing. And you have to change with it. You have to grow with it. You grow with your children. You grow with your new job. You grow by reacting differently each time you are upset. Small changes grow in small ways. Because life is just a series of small changes. And those small changes that you hardly notice, they add up. And in a year from now, you will be a different person. But that starts with you telling yourself now that you must change. That starts with you making changes now. And they don't have to be drastic. Start writing in a journal what you're grateful for every day. That can be a great change. It can open your eyes to what is good in your life just by focusing on what is good in your life and putting it on paper. Connect with your life. Because connecting with your life by doing things like writing down what you're grateful for will help you be more able to change and more able to accept the things you can't. Because there are some things in life that we can't change. There are some things that we have to accept. And in accepting them, we are accepting that not everything is in our control, and we have to let go of control. Letting go of control makes your life easier. When you try to control everything, I think about how stressed you are because you're fighting life, trying to control every aspect of it. And I just got a Foolish song in my head. It's here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail. Hippity hoppity, Easter's on its way. Not a clue. If that resonates for you, please let me know, because wow. But here we go. Makes me think of bunnies. And what do bunnies do? They hop along through life slowly. Well, they can be fast, but most of the time they're grazing in the grass and not doing too much, hopping along. And if you think about the animals, they don't force life. They don't push things. They don't force life. And they're just living. Be like the animals. Live. Just live. Swing with life. Let it come. And as it does, adapt. We all adapt all the time. We have to. It's inevitable. There is no way to go through this life without some sort of adaptation. There's not. There are aspects in life where you just have to accept and become who you need to be in that moment. And sometimes it's unavoidable, and that's okay. But in the moments that you can change, in the moments that you can bring a difference to, do it. Because change is what's going to help you grow. And once you start growing, you can do anything. You realize that you can be anything, you can do anything. You realize that this life is yours. Through growth, you realize that this life is yours. And I can tell you all day that this life is yours. But until you accept that truly into your heart, you won't believe it. Because until you do the growing to see the changes in your life, you won't believe it. And And the sun is coming out, and I think it's ironic my shirt says, "Here comes the sun." But as the sun comes out, I'm reminded to be grateful for my life today. I woke up with energy. I woke up happy. I slept pretty well last night. I have my health. I have my family, a home, a roof over my head. I have everything I need, and I feel grateful for that. And you need to focus on being grateful for what you have too. Be grateful for everything, even the little things that you think don't matter, because they do. And the more grateful you are for your life, the more you can accept things into it. Because when you're grateful for what you have, you're not focused on what you don't have. And not focusing on what you don't have puts you in the positive mindset. And when you're living in that positive mindset, life grows easy. Life becomes positive. And you want to live a positive life because nobody wants to live in negativity. Nobody wants to live in doubt or shame or guilt. You don't. You want to live a happy life, a truly happy life where you are content and comfortable and can just walk through life with your head held high. And if you can't, you need to make changes. Right back to the changes. Adapt with life. Change with life. Grow with life. You have to. If you don't grow, you will become one of those craggy old people who hates life and brings everybody around them down. And you don't want to be that. You don't. You really don't. No one's goal in life is to be a negative Nancy. Yet somehow, some of us become that. And it's not always easy to stay positive. It's not always easy to look for the good things. But the more you do it, the more you'll find them. I think that's all I have to say for today. Thanks for watching.